And Derek Goff did give me the name of the police officers and the police station that he took the photographs to and handed one set in.
Right.
And I did a freedom of information request to try and find information about this officer and, you know, did they have a case where 2 mutilated bodies had been reported, and I got nothing back from that. But that doesn't really prove anything. It just proves that they weren't able to corroborate that. But
Right.
When you look at photos like that, you try to reason with yourself. I mean, you're looking for excuses to not to believe what you're seeing.
yes,
You turn them around and think, oh, it might be this, might be that. But when you look at it and you keep giving you photos after photo and you keep looking at it, you think, God, this is...
right.
Well, it's mind-boggling because I didn't want the story.
So the third time you saw him, had he been arrested?
No, that's the whole thing about it. I mean, when I went back down to the police station, which was on the Thursday morning, to speak to this police officer,
They didn't.
he gone on holiday.
Right. Okay. So
I mean, you're talking about murder inquiry, alleged, which he should have been.
yeah. So the police have obviously been told to back off.
Yes, which I'm not known for my patience anyway, and I actually punched this police officer in the chest.
Right.
Not hard, which should have been assault.
Right.
She's been arrested, which I wanted, because I had a trouble reasoning with all this. My head was
Because
all
you
in
felt you were
disarray.
being fobbed off by.
No, my head was gone because of what I was seeing. I didn't believe,
Yes,
I couldn't
right.
believe that this is happening today.
Okay.
I had never heard of any mutilations of humans ever in my life, except for one. And I only learnt of that about 2 years before. I mean, if you read a book and there's only one, it looks as if the book had been set on fire in Brazil. That's all it looked like.
Right.
But when you actually seen something that you don't want to see and you never asked for, all I wanted was a light in the sky, something exciting.
Right.
When those photographs appeared, he said, they're not the only ones. He was also marked, which he showed me on his arms, radiation. And he was a big man, like he said.
Right.
I'm afraid. I walk up and down, I check my kids all the time, especially in the dark. It's happening all the time.
Right.
He said, we got children, i.e. his group, we got children, and something got to be done about it.
He thought he should report these photographs to the police, which is what anyone would do.
Yes.
So he went to the police, he handed them in. The police said to him, right, we're going to go and arrest this guy that you've met. Because I
Right.
think Goff had his address by then, or he certainly had his name and his details. They said, yep, we're going to arrest him, come back and see us tomorrow. He went back the following day and everything had changed. There was 2 plainclothes people trying to persuade him that it was all a joke.
When eventually I got in touch with DC Adams, I said, what happened then? Because I wasn't happy anyway. Oh, I'll tell you what happened. He said, this man seen a light in the sky a couple of years ago and he thought he'd have a laugh with him. Bearing in mind what the story is, mind.
Oh, right. The police officer said that to you?
That's his exact words.
The police officer said to Derek, we've interviewed the guy. He said he was in the territorial army. He said he was pulling Derek's leg and just wanted to make...
He seen a light in the sky a couple of years ago and he thought
Right.
he'd have a laugh. I thought, no, but that story you didn't. This is no way. That Detective Constable Adams, he
Right.
was going to arrest him there and then. I mean, I wasn't allowed. You're not allowed to stay here. Could he be brought back here and he don't want you to see...
Right.
Because nothing ever happened.
Right.
I mean, I went back in the morning. Police officers had gone on holidays. Strange that he had murdered and quiet and he'd gone on holidays. When I asked to see someone else, a policewoman came in and a man at the back. And being CID, dressed in plain clothes, I haven't got a clue who they were.
So you don't know who they were, but
No.
there was some plainclothes officers that...
The woman I was talking to, because if you look at the psychology of people casting questions, if a woman talks to a man, it seems to be all subdued and it's not so much. But of course, there was a man in the back there,
Right.
standing there with his arm folded.
When they were talking to you?
Yeah, when she was talking to me, saying that, oh, he's seen a light in the sky a couple of years ago.
Oh, right. So there was 2 plainclothes officers that you hadn't seen before
Yeah.
came in to tell you that he'd just seen a
In
light
the interview
sky.
room. In the interview room.
In the interview room, and there was another man in that room. You weren't told who these people
He was right in the
were.
corner, just
So
stood
they
there.
could have been MI5 or anything.
I had to keep pushing him and touching him. You know, if you touch a police officer, it
Yeah.
comes under assault.
Right.
If you get
You would-
arrested, I would have gone to the court and then I could have told the story.
Right. So you were trying to get a reaction
Yeah.
because you were upset.
And I wanted to be arrested. I wanted to be arrested, so when I went to court, I could say, right, this is why I done this, because of the story.
Okay.
They didn't bite.
Communication broke down between Derek and his source because the source realised Derek had recorded some of their conversations against his wishes, and Derek had given copies of the photographs to the police. After this, Derek wrote an article about the events in Global magazine entitled 580 Security Interview. The editor advised that certain facts about the case be altered so the story seemed less credible, because he was worried about the implications of revealing such sensitive information. After the article was published, Derek Goff was contacted by people claiming to be from mainstream media wanting his story, and offered money. When he refused to cooperate with journalists, he then started to receive telephone threats not to further publish the information, and finally suffered a very suspicious house fire, which seemed to be targeted in his office. He suspects that the person who read his gas meter the day before the fire was a bogus caller who planted a device. The meter was not due to be read at that time. Can I just ask you about the name then? So it's group and then a space, 5 and then a space and then 8. So it's not group 58.
No.
It's group 5.
Eight.
Is it dash 8?
No, it is group 58.
Group 58 Security. You were in touch with this magazine, Global, and you gave the story to Global, who printed it in a fashion, but you know there was quite a number of mistakes in it.
Yeah, but
and as a result of it appearing in the Global magazine, you then began to be contacted by people who wanted to buy the story, to have the tapes, and offered you money for it. And it was ostensibly a person, a reporter from the press. I think you said he was from either the Times or the Guardian or something like this, who wanted to give the story. You refused the initial offer, which was £100 or something like that. I forget just what amount of money was involved. The person gave a phone number and an address, which turned out to be false. He phoned you again, giving you another phone number, another address, offering you more money, and you didn't give the details out because you wanted, because you were at the time receiving threats on the phone, which were saying you will never ever be allowed to print the story.
Yeah, but
This is after you've printed it in the Global magazine.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was a bogus reporter wanting the story,
Right.
wanted to buy the story, and wanted to have the tapes.
Right.
And once that had failed, Derek started to receive phone calls which said categorically, you will not be allowed to tell the story.
Basically, you put out the story into that magazine. You then started getting contact by the press. You also give me a News of the World card, and you refused every time to give your story to them.
Yeah, I did, because it was... I had a feeling... I was so mixed up. I wanted the story out, but I didn't want no backlash in. I just wanted rid of the story.
Let's face it, you were frightened because of the anonymous phone calls that were made to you,
to be honest,
to say that you were in danger and that your story would never be allowed to be printed. Derek was contacted by somebody allegedly from Metropolitan Police, New Scotland Yard, who wanted to know information about Matthew Williams. Derek said, I know Matthew Williams, but I can't give you the information. Subsequently, he rang up late one evening, probably about 11:30 in the evening. This guy rang up Derek to say, there's a warrant out for Matthew Williams' address. Do you know where he is? Arrest.
Yeah.
Do you know where he is? So Derek said, well, no. He said, I don't know where he is. Why should I know? Well, they said, if you do find out any information, make sure you let us know, because he's wanted, warrants have been issued for his arrest, he's wanted by this, that and the other. And we believe that this person was trying to discredit Derek. Subsequently, when at 2:30 in the morning we managed to get in touch with Matthew Williams, because Derek rang up and he's at his home, we found out this story was false. So Derek rang up this guy in a Whitehall number, New Scotland Yard number, saying, what the hell are you playing at? There's no arrest warrant out for Matthew Williams. What the hell are you playing at? So the reply came back, Derek, they said, you're good at what you do. I have to apologise. He said, I was told to pass this story on to you.
Right. So if you had then come out publicly and said there's a warrant out for Matthew's arrest, it would have made you looked after as if you were lying about that.
Yeah,
So
and any subsequent stories therein, or what I was on about them, would have been blown out of the water.
When the phone rang and Derek said, the bastards set fire to my house, I just couldn't handle it. I put the phone down and I was shaking.
Right.
I was absolutely shaking.
As I mentioned earlier, I managed to make contact and meet with the same military source some 16 years later and was able to get further information. Here are some video diaries I made when trying to establish contact with Derek Goff's military source. I need to verify that this guy exists, so I would like to speak to him, even just to say, look, can you speak to me about Group 58? And then if he tells me to F off, fair enough. At least I've identified that this is a real person. I've been given some information about the street where he lives, and I'm on it now. And I don't know the exact house number, but I've got a description approximately of which house it is, so I'm going to have a drive along. I did come along here yesterday, but I didn't have a description of where it was. I just knew the street. So I'm going to drive along here now and see if I can identify it. If I can identify the house based on the description that I've got from, I'll go back on 192.com and see if I can find out the name of the people who are living there, and just to see if the description matches what I've got. Now, I went to the house of the NATO military guy yesterday. I pulled up outside his house and he was sitting on the step, and I had a brief conversation with him, and I've recorded some of that on a pen camera. What follows is a transcript of the first conversation I had when I pulled up outside his house. Hiya, are you? Yes. I've been doing some research and would like to ask you, were you involved in Group 58? Group 58? Group 58? In the military? On the Brecon Beacons? He then shakes his head. No. There's a guy called... Is that you? Yes. What's going on? You were in the military between 1983 and about 1995. Were you in the army? Have you been in the army? No. What's all this about? It's a story that I've been researching, and I've been trying to find this guy. A colleague of mine helped me find you, so that's all I know. What regiment? It was a NATO regiment, connected with NATO. NATO? Yes, so it's Special Forces. Who gave you that? Who gave you that then? Who gave me that? A guy called Tony Dodd. He shouldn't have given you that. He shouldn't have given you that. Sorry? He shouldn't have given you that. He shouldn't have given me it. Well, I did make contact with him. Tony Dodd has spoken to you, I think. He shouldn't have given you that information. Well, are you prepared to speak to me? No. No. You can't say anything then? No, just drive away. Drive away. Okay. Now, it was fairly clear from that brief conversation that he probably was in this military group, because I said to him, look, you were in the military, and he said, well, which unit was I in? And I said, well, it was a NATO unit, and he was a bit surprised then, and he told me to drive off. He said, where did you get that information from? And then he said, look, just drive away, I can't tell you anything, drive away. So what I've done is I've written him a note, and I've come back today. So the note explained the reason why I'm contacting him, that I'm interested in these particular photographs. I've also included a copy of my film The Berwyn UFO Cover-Up and Silent Killers, which is all about animal mutilation. So I went to put those through his letterbox today, and also a note just to tell him where and how he can contact me if he wants to speak further. I've given them that information now. I walked up the street today and he was in the garden, and I handed these two DVDs and this letter to him, and he's actually spoken to me. So he said, look, we can't talk here. So I got an inkling that, you know, maybe he might speak to me, I don't know, but the guy is on 2 crutches, and he also has a wheelchair. He's got MS. MS is one of the conditions you can get if you are exposed to high levels of radiation, which in the notes that I've got from Derek Goff, this is what allegedly happened to him. He had exposure because he was 5 feet from a UFO, and he ended up in hospital for 2 weeks with another guy. So the condition that he's in now, he had 2 crutches, is quite possibly down to the work that he was doing in his Find and Secure unit to cover up UFO cases, and in particular mutilated human beings. Now, when I said to him, he said, "What's this about?" And I mentioned Tony Dodd. I said, "Well, I'm kind of taking over from where Tony Dodd left off, if you like." I also said that I was aware of the photographs that had been handed to Tony Dodd. 11 photographs, I said, of 2 mutilated corpses up on Brecon. He didn't flinch. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And when I mentioned UFOs, he didn't flinch. He knew what I was talking about. So I said to him, "Look, I've got a great deal of respect for you and what you were doing, because you would have had no choice in it. You're obviously a very brave man. And you can clearly see that probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, he's a thick-set, muscular bloke, but he's obviously got some sort of MS, which is why he was on two crutches." So he said, "We can't talk here," implying that he might speak to me. So I've given him the package and I've said, "Look, it tells you in there if you want to meet me where we can meet." But that's confirmation to me. Obviously he didn't say, "Yes, I was in the military, yes, I was in NATO," but everything that I was putting to him, there was no look of, "What are you talking about?" It was sort of almost, "How do I know this? How have I got to find out this?" That was more his look. So, and I said to him, "I realised that this whole thing that you were involved with has not been easy for you," and I said that I respect him. So let's see if anything comes of it. He said to me, "Look, you can't keep coming to the house." He said to us, "Right, if you drive down there in this particular car park," he says, "wait for me there, I'll be 20 minutes. So I waited, he showed up, and then he said, "Right, follow me in the car." He drove about a mile to a place which is safe, that no one can hear us speaking. We got out the car. He then checked to make sure that I didn't have any recording devices on me, and I turned my pockets inside out and showed him that my camera was in the car. I said, "Is it okay if I take some notes?" So I had a piece of paper and a pencil. He says, "That's fine." So he spoke to me. I made some notes. He was very, very wary about whether I had any recording devices on us. He kind of checked that I didn't have anything, made sure that I kept my camera in the car. And we drove to a quiet location. And as I said, we spoke for about 15 minutes. This man said that he was in a black ops unit that was controlled by the Yanks. That's what he said. And he said that when he volunteered for this in the 1980s, he didn't know what he was getting himself into. He said that we didn't know what we were volunteering for, but once we'd volunteered, we had no choice but to stick with it. You're in for life. And he said that if they find out that people like him speak about what their operations, he wouldn't be here and his family wouldn't be here. He was implying that his life is at risk and his family's if he was to speak about what he knows about. Now, I asked him about this alleged encounter with the UFO. In the previous notes, it was stated that one of these Black Ops soldiers was just 5 feet from a UFO. I asked him about this and he confirmed that that was the case. And I said to him, "Well, how come you were so close to it?" And he said, "We were guarding it." All right, so I said, "Well, was it a crash retrieval?" And he said, "Right, I can't tell you any more information about that, so read into that what you will." Now, he also said that he witnessed all kinds of things in and around the craft. He said that he actually witnessed an ET on more than one occasion, and he said it's nothing like you would see in films with big eyes and smiley faces. And I said, "Well, what did this being look like?" And he said it looked like a devil, which is possibly some kind of reptilian entity. Now, and he also said that they would rip you apart. That was what he said. And he said that he did get a view of inside this particular landed UFO, and he said that there was all kinds in there, and he implied that there was human body parts in there. And we've heard that from people such as Bill Cooper in the past.
There were many more saucer crashes and downed craft than what you have realized. There were many more alien bodies recovered, and there were more live aliens recovered than what you are aware of. But that's not important. The important thing is that they occurred, not how many and not where. The important thing is that they occurred. And those of you who want to argue over how many and where and how many bodies are wasting the time of everyone else, because that's not important. What's important is that they occurred. And there are 2 crashes that are so important that the government will go to any lengths to prevent you from finding out. And those are 2 crashes which occurred near the city of Aztec, New Mexico. Why? Because both of those crashed craft contained human body parts. And they are deathly afraid of a national panic.
Now, I asked him about his injuries because he clearly has got health problems, and as have a number of the people who were on his team, and he said that some of his colleagues were no longer with us, so they've died as a result of their injuries, which were they suffered as a result of being in part of this Find and Secure team. He also said that they have all suffered skin rashes, cancer, skin cancer, and tumours as well. And like I say, some of his friends on that unit have already passed away, and they'll only be probably in their early 50s. Now, I asked him about the injuries to try and get him to describe the injuries that have been found on some of these recovered corpses, and he just said, you just wouldn't want to see it. All right. He also gave information about an underground facility near Sunnybridge, and also confirmed the radar facility, which is hidden under the ground on the Brecon beacons, which comes up at night, some radar facility which is used for tracking the UFOs. And I asked him, you know, how come you're able to do this? And it's because he confirmed again that they have advanced warning, and he doesn't know how. He doesn't know how they know when these UFOs are going to appear. And I asked him how often he would go out on these missions, these Find and Secure missions. He said about 4 times every 6 months. I asked him about the statement in Derek Goff's notes that they witnessed between 30 and 40 mutilated human beings. He confirmed that. He confirmed that, you know, there's a lot of cases, and he said that it was something you would not want to see. And he was saying, oh, films are all good enough about UFOs and ETs and all of this. He said, but when you get involved in it in reality, it's a completely different thing. And the other thing he said was, he says this statement that aliens are friendly, that he's obviously heard through watching media and whatnot, he says he was no way. And I said to him, well, how long do you think this sort of activity is being going on for? And without flinching, he said, since before we were here. And I said, is it still going on now? Absolutely. And I said to him, do you believe that there's different types of being, different types of alien? And he said, yes, he did believe that. But the one that he described was, as he said it was like a devil. He says, but it would rip you apart, extremely strong and powerful. I asked him about locations where this activity is going on, and he said he believed that it was happening all over the world. I also asked him how he felt about his situation, the fact that he's not allowed to speak about anything, and the fact that he's obviously physically affected by the radiation burns that he received. And he said he didn't have any hard feelings about it, because he said that we signed up for this. Okay, we didn't know what we were signing up to, but we knew it was something that could put our lives at risk, so I signed up for it. So he doesn't, and he said that's why they're looking after him now. They're obviously giving him some sort of probably psychological and physical support, and probably financial support for his service in this Special Forces group. I didn't get a chance to get the name confirmed. I didn't ask him about Group 58, didn't ask him about NATO, although he definitely reacted in a way the other day to suggest that NATO, it was a NATO group, but today he's described it as a Black Ops group. He had physical sort of lumps on his lips, which possibly was part of this skin tumour, skin cancer that he was talking about. He's on crutches, and he's probably only about 50 years of age. And just from his demeanour and his mannerisms, the way that he put it across, he was confirming pretty much everything that I was asking him about the original Goff interview. And he also gave me